Hey guys, we are live. We are talking about the mastery chat that we just finished, and I am excited to say that I got Tiffany with me.
Yay! I'm here.
Yes, we were just talking about how it was such a good chat. We're both just a little tired from a long day, but it was a really good chat on an awesome topic.
Yeah. Pretty much one of my favorite topics ever, which is blended learning. I mean, look at my tag for what my Twitter profile name is. I love tech. I love blended learning. I think it is so incredibly powerful. So it was just a really cool chat to talk about how awesome it was. And a lot of people were really excited about it.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're okay.
I was just saying earlier when I was on with Amber, we were talking about how our conference in Rhode Island was just the beginning of this month, and this is how now we're ending the month. And I feel like I'm a broken record, but that was such a fun conference to be able to collaborate with hundreds of thousands of blended learning educators.
Yeah.
Then now to have this chat with our Mastery Chat family was it was very fun. I loved the circular effect.
Yeah, well, and I'm like weeks away from finishing my instructional technology master's degree, like close. And so, this it's just all up in my mind, and I think about it all the time. I help other teachers all the time. I was actually just sitting with some teachers today, and we were talking about Edpuzzle and how you can use Edpuzzle for formative assessment. And like there are just so many opportunities for awesome learning that can happen when you incorporate tech well. And that is the really important key there. It's when you do it well, because there's issues if you don't do it quite right. And I love that some of the questions that we had tonight were like, okay, what can go wrong? Because there are things that can go wrong,
No, I totally agree. I think you totally hit it on the head when you're talking about how, tech can enhance something, right? It's really like providing that student a more valuable purpose throughout their time. And so my favorite Tiffany quote about tech is that it has to enhance something, not replace it. And really within blended learning, teachers being able to use tech to enhance learning, to make it outside of the walls of their classroom and really bring it full circle is so valuable in blended learning.
Well, and there's a lot of misconceptions too about what blended learning is and about what it isn't, there are some people that are of the mind that blended learning means sticking kids on a computer. And that could not be further from the truth. There are people who think blended learning means that the teacher is no longer doing any teaching, right? Like, you're not teaching my kid, or my teacher's not teaching me. And there are instances of teachers saying they're doing blended learning where that's actually what's happening, right? And the kids aren't really learning anything and they're just being stuck on a computer. That is a big problem, right? But there are thousands and thousands of ways to really do blended learning incredibly effectively. And when you're doing it well, the conversations you have with students, the engagement that you see is awesome. But you can't just my favorite example is having a kid write an informational essay on paper, and then having them write an informational essay on the computer. It's still writing an informational essay, right? It's still looking up facts and putting information on paper and spitting it out. And there are so many more engaging ways that you can use tech to gather research and build a way to communicate that research, besides just saying, okay, go type your paper. Because that's not blended learning. That's typing a paper, which just isn't it. We don't want that. I mean, typing's good and all, but that's not the point. you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I also there was a lot of questions about teachers that were asking questions, right? So how can they start it in their classroom? I liked that we were talking about the pitfalls, because that allowed teachers to really reflect. Was there a common answer that you felt like kind of took over the chat? Usually we find some themes.
Yeah. So one of the questions was about what's your next step, right? Because you can use blended learning to work with the time of learning, the place of learning, the path of learning, and the pace of learning, right? And I loved that question, because we do a lot of discussion and conversation around the pace of learning. When you're doing a mastery learning approach, we all love the grid method. We use the grid method. When you're using that, what you're really adjusting is the pace of learning for the student, because they're moving through the content at their own pace, getting what they need when they need it.
Sure.
In my position, the time and the place are something that really are pretty inflexible, because I'm not allowed in my position to give any outside of classwork, which is fine. I don't mind that at all. I kind of like it. But so the one thing that I can really work on that I haven't explored fully is the path, right? So like that choice, which Cameron Carter talks about student choice and voice all the time. And I love that. And so that was a common one I saw. And actually most of the responses that I saw were about like, hey, I already do PACE. PACE is really important. And so, kind of seeing that commonality was interesting.
Yeah.
There were a lot of people in there who, like, whether or not they're doing student-paced mastery learning in their classroom, they're doing it. They just don't know it. You know what I mean? Like, they're doing a lot of those key pieces, which was cool for me. I like that.
Well, and that was something that I actually discussed with Amber that when we did our preview was I was telling her, I was like, I was doing blended learning before I knew I was doing blended learning. But I love that your acknowledgement of the PACE is only one element, right? I agree that there are other avenues that I need to explore as a teacher, that while the PACE I might be focusing a lot on, there's these other key pieces to ensure that blended learning has that full view for the student.
Right. And like when we think about changing the path of learning or the path of instruction, however you want to think about it, like that can be a choice board, right? Like that can be so many different ways. Like, how does the student share their information? How do they show their learning to you? And so that path can look very different. And so, like we're focused on the PACE mostly in what we talk about, but that path, I don't think it's a big stretch to put some of those changes in the path into what we already do, So that was
a lot of my conversations this past week, I was talking to two specific educators, Mike and Dean, and we've had some amazing conversations on how they can more effectively use the grid method. Yeah. And one of their concerns that they had was that they couldn't use PBL, they couldn't use choice boards, they couldn't use playlists within a grid, and so therefore the grid became kind of unappealing. And I sat there and I was like, you could do all of those things that would make your grid so much cooler. There's so much versatility.
Right.
And so it was so nice for these educators that were trying to be reflective and trying to be progressive and trying to implement these best practices. And they're like, okay, so if I go this way, I have to let go of these best practices. And it's like, no, keep them. Embed all of those elements, embed that innovative path within the pacing of the framework. It was a really fun conversation.
Absolutely. There were so many different things in this chat tonight that were significant. Right. Like, and so many different ways this conversation could go. There were discussions of, what are the barriers to doing blended learning in your classroom? And we've got access to technology. We've got resistance. Right. So I'm sure everybody watching this can think of a situation where there may or may not be a teacher in your building who is a little resistant to tech. Right. It happens. Sometimes there's downright hostility against it, and this it always puzzles me when I get a lot of that resistance from parents. Do you ever get that?
Actually, that was one of my favorite pieces that came up, was that not only that the teacher was trying to do something for the students, but ensuring that the parents were educated on blended learning. So I love where you're going. This is a big part of the Twitter chat for me.
Right. Well, I mean, think about what you do with Teach Further, right? You always have that, like, what do you call it? You have a fancy name for it, like the parent communication thing, or
planning for the future guide. Yes.
Okay. So you have that piece and you're always like, this is key. We have to have this piece because you've got to bring those parents in. And when we work with teachers on, understanding and implementing the grid method, it's like, you got to communicate what this crazy thing is so that parents have some understanding. Well, the same thing goes for tech. And I've had parents this year who have said, well, I don't want my kid on the computer. And I'm just like, ugh.
Well, you don't want them on the computer without purpose, right? Like,
yes. And that's the key, right?
Right? Parents, when they're like, oh, they're on the computer, they're playing games. And I'm like, whoa. You need to come in my classroom. If we're using the computer, it's so purposeful that you need to almost see it to believe it,
Well, and that brings up something else, because sometimes the way that people do blended learning in their classroom is with games that aren't effective. I love gamification. I love game-based learning, but there are a lot of times that I am just absolutely shocked when I see teachers using some tech in ways that are not at all enriching, like literally a game that has no academic value. Like, what? What are you doing? You're wasting time.
Go the other way.
Yeah, like we're always talking about, teachers are always saying, I don't have time to do this. I don't have time to do this. Well, then use the tech well. You know what I mean? Like there's ways to use it well and bring games in and do all sorts of really engaging things, but you can't just stick them on a game. It doesn't work like that.
It's true.
And Jeff, I love what Jeff says. He has parents who won't let their students have a device and they're one-to-one. Mm-hmm. Like, what do you do in that situation, Jeff? Like, do you do a conference with the parents? Like what steps would you take to kind of remedy that situation? I imagine I'd be on the phone like right away, and I hate making phone calls, but I'd be on the phone and I'd be like, hey, tell me why this is concerning for you, you know?
Right. To your point, though, that conversation is valuable. And you, like I said before, you almost have to invite your parents in to say, this is what it looks like to you to use a device in my classroom. This is the purpose that it carries. Right. If your vision of how they're using a device is different, then maybe we're misunderstanding each other and how we're going to move forward together.
Right. Well, and let's get like really meta about it, right? Why don't you use tech to show your parents how students use tech, right? So you could do a video recording of your classroom showing some of this awesome learning experiences like in action, and then share that. What I did this year, and I'm so excited I did it. It was really effective. But at the start of the school year, I created a video where I walked my parents through like, this is what this is, and this is how it works, and this is what a grid is, and this is what Classcraft is, and this is what we're doing this year in class. And I emailed it to them so that there's screencasting tools. There's a smartphone that you can just video record something happening in your classroom and use that as your communication.
Yeah, and I actually just collaborated with, or I just talked to Kyle about this. Kyle created Classroom Q. We had a phone call, and one of my favorite pieces that he showed me before we actually were able to hop on a phone call was his video, his version of what you were just talking about, where he was being completely transparent with his students, with his parents, and saying, this is what we do here. I would love for you to be involved in all of the greatness that I'm about to show you. And here's every process I use, and here's why I use it. Because that transparency in education is going to be the fix for all these misconceptions. And they're not just misconceptions about education, but we have to continue to be transparent with our parents in every way, shape, and form. And so I love hearing that you did that. I cannot believe I haven't done that. I told Kyle when I saw his video, I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to go back to August. I need to go back.
Right.
Do my video. So I will be doing one in this August.
Well, and if you think about it, if we think about where we are, they don't want the costs if they break it. That's the parent concern for Jeff's student. So do they not want the kid using it in school, or do they not want the kid taking it home? I mean, I don't know. That sounds like a really, I might be calling in the troops, right? I might be saying, hey, district tech coordinator, can you help me with this? Or, hey, principal, we need to have some more conversations around here, you know?
Yeah.
But what I was saying is humans are digital consumers now, right? And 20 years ago, when I was, 13, maybe-ish. Yeah, I don't know. I'm turning 34 on Sunday.
Happy birthday.
Woo-hoo! But like 20 years ago when I was 13, we weren't media consumers the way that we are now, right? How do you fix your car? You YouTube it, right? How do we learn what's going on in the world? We watch the news, or well, who watches the news on TV? We watch a news clip, right? But we are consumers of media. And so when we try and send these parents these super long emails trying to explain everything, they tune out. I tune out, right?
How better method,
right? You get tons of emails. You open it up, there's more than 2 paragraphs of text. I'm going to deal with that later.
Yep.
But you open it up and there's a video, well, I may be more likely to watch that.
Yeah.
Now, I will say, I don't want to put myself on a pedestal. I did that at the start of the year. I have been terrible about following through with continuing to create video this year. It's on my to-do list for ways I want to grow. But that's another thing, that when you're talking about blended learning and you're talking about ed tech integration, you're going to mess up. You're going to do something cool and then you're going to not do it. And then you're going to try this and it's going to fail. And it's part of that whole fail forward growth mindset philosophy that we all need to embrace in ourselves and in our students. Okay. Real quick, I'm going to interrupt myself because didn't last week Jeff say we could just have Tiff on here for like an hour and she'd talk nonstop about blended learning?
I did just learn, though, that from this point forward, anyone who emails me, I will be replying in a video. I've decided.
I'll expect to get many videos from you, Ray.
Oh, yeah. Just email me, and I will only reply through video.
So I'm sorry. I'm going like on and on. I don't even know how long I've been talking. But like, I can talk about this stuff forever because there's so much potential.
Yes, there is. But it's exciting. It really is exciting. I have to ask you, I'm going to interrupt you now.
Please
you
do.
said that you're almost done with this big master's, your tech master's. Yeah. When are you finished? Like, do we have a big day that we're celebrating?
No, we're limping to the deadline and it will happen and I will survive.
So like
maybe
a month?
May. Yeah.
Okay.
May. I actually have to go back and look at my syllabus and see what the last thing I have to do is.
So I'm done on Monday.
Ah! Are you serious?
Yes. So I'll have my curriculum and instruction and be done. I know we're going to have to celebrate together, maybe through video, and so you all can be with us.
Well, and I get to see you soon, too. The end of May, we're going to actually be, like, for those of you who don't know, Ray and I are not in the same state, and it is a point of much sorrow in our lives because we are 2 states away. She's in Illinois. I'm in Ohio. It's a very, very sad thing. But we get to see each other the end of May, and we're going to have Amber, who's going to be with us, and Jeff and Chad, and it's going to be awesome. I think Amber's going to be with us.
Yeah.
She's going to be with us, right?
Well, we're going to need to do something live so that we can tie in all of our friends that are virtual too, because there's a lot of Grid Nation that won't be together in May, but there's a few of us that will be, and I'm very excited to see everybody.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome. So, yeah, lots of good things.
Kind of off topic. Before we end, I do want to say our host was fabulous. I want to give her a huge round of applause. I connected with her months and months ago, and I threw at her, I'm like, do you want to host a Twitter chat? And she was like, maybe, that'd be cool. And I'm like, okay, you got 6 months to figure out how to do it. You're going to be in April.
She's never done a chat before. She was great.
She did awesome. She may have done one since I talked to her and now, but just I was so impressed with her questions, the in-depth thought that she put into them, the conversations that she was having. I'm just so proud of all of our PLN that continues to grow on Twitter.
And she has been a part of Mastery Chat for months and months and months.
Oh yeah.
Because like we're a year in, right? Like we'll have to figure out what our official date is. Yes. Yeah. But we're really close, and she's been with us almost from the beginning. So kudos.
Yeah, very exciting.
What's her handle? Is it Miss Petty Tweets?
Yes, I think Miss Petty Tweets is what her handle is.
Yeah, love it. Love it.
Do we know next week? I'm going to throw that at you because I don't know if you do.
I don't. Do you?
I don't, but I need to look it up. I feel like this is so weird on live that I'm going to look something up, but you can't get off, your time and not know who's next.
No. How dare we not know?
It's just awful. I know. It must be the busy week we had. We did start our conversation with, it has been a long day.
It's been a long, long, long week.
I know.
We're getting through, but it's okay. It's all right. While you're looking that up, I'll talk more about blended stuff. What was that? There was something I was going to say. Oh, this too is something that I absolutely love doing. And it's not so much what you do with students with blended learning, but as a teacher, we talk a lot about finding our tribe and having a tribe of teachers that build each other up and help each other. One of my favorite things to do is just screencast explaining something to a teacher. Like,
Sure.
I have a teacher who's like, oh, what, you do a Flipgrid? What's that about? And I'm like, oh, let me make a quick screencast and I'll show you how it works. And you just screencast and you have a 2-minute video and the person can go back and reference it anytime they need. And so that's just, those kind of collaborative opportunities are awesome for us as educators to develop professionally.
Okay, I have 2 huge comments from that.
2 huge ones, okay.
2 huge. First of all, I was honored to teach Adam Peterson what Flipgrid was last week. And it literally made my day that he was like, I don't know what that is. And I'm like, I get to teach you something? If you don't know Adam Peterson, for those of you out there that may not have connected, please connect with him on Twitter. Really, Instagram and Facebook is his thing. But he's Teachers Learn Too, TOO, and he's doing phenomenal things. One of the biggest things he's pushing right now that I'm going to do a plug is on May 9th. He is trying to change the world. He's trying to make the world yellow because it's all about Kindness Day. And so May 9th, stop what you're doing, write down May 9th. You need to wear yellow and tag Adam Peterson in this big movement to really ensure that kindness is spread throughout our world. I'm very excited for it. That's my little plug. Secondly, we have a killer host next week, and our host is Brian. Brian is a principal in Batavia Middle School, which is outside Chicago suburbs.
What's the last name? Brian.
It's.
Oh, the Brian that you know through the thing?
The Brian that I know through the thing. Can you pronounce his last name? You pronounced it before. Oh, gosh.
Spell it? You know him, right?
This, I'm sorry, Brian.
What? Zwemke?
Yes, that's
Zwemke.
It. There we
Brian
go.
Zwemke.
Anyway, Brian is a phenomenal principal. He's a phenomenal principal in a Chicago suburb middle school, and he is so passionate about middle school and education. He's actually the vice president of the Middle School Association as well in Illinois. So he's just doing killer things. So his topic next week is all about two-way communication between the school and home. So it kind of blends itself really well to what our conversation was about now, that we need to find really authentic ways to communicate with our parents, some of which using technology. And I bet he's going to talk about that next week. So
yeah,
segue.
That's awesome. I mean, may I make a request? Can we just talk about blended learning every week? I will just talk for hours and hours and hours.
Yes.
I love it. There's just so much opportunity, Ray. I mean, whether it's communicating with parents, like we're going to talk about next week, right? Or communicating with students. I mean, you can offer, I'm going to stop. So many cool things that you can do. You know, like the world is so different now. And education has such this amazing opportunity to really be part of this transformation that our world is experiencing. And not to fight it, but to embrace it and really help build what it's going to become. And I just I get goosebumps and I get so excited when I think about all the possibilities that are there. So, yes.
So if you want to talk more about blended learning, you need to connect with Tiff and I. We'll talk your ear off.
We will. We like calling people. We like talking. We like emailing. Maybe we'll do a video email. Who knows? But seriously, talk to us.
I only do video emails from this point forward. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. For all of you who are participating in our chat, we had a phenomenal time talking about blended learning. We don't even want to end, but let's be honest, we all need to continue the rest of our evenings. You have to all be with us next week as Brian hosts, talking about two-way communication with parents and teachers, which will be phenomenal. Thank you for everything that you do. Tiffany, any final insight before we go off?
Simply that we can all learn from each other. So if you have something that is working, just tell us. Share. We'll tell the world. We'll tell the world together. And there's just so much possibility. Let's just make it happen, right? There's so much awesomeness out there.
All right, guys, go make it happen.